The station smelled of rain and tired coffee. Maya moved through the crowd with the steady carefulness of someone who had learned to carry both grief and duty. She was a nurse. Her shift had ended at midnight, and the city felt heavier in the wet. In her hands, she held a small paper bag, a birthday gift wrapped in tissue for a little girl she loved like family. The girl was her late husband's daughter, her reason for waking up every morning. Trains screamed. Announcements blurred into each other. Lights flashed across the slick platform. Maya kept her bag close. She checked her watch and then reflexively smoothed the bracelet on her wrist. It was thin and dented, an old hospital bracelet with a name nearly faded. She had worn it since she was small, a talisman against the noise. Tonight, she barely noticed the people pressing around her, until someone shoved into her back. At first, she thought it was the usual jostle. Commuters bumped shoulders and mumbled apologies. But then hands grabbed. A heavy body moved near her. A man with a worn jacket and a tired face brushed past. He smelled of the city and something older, like old coffee in hospital halls. Maya felt the impact and stumbled. For a heartbeat, she thought her bag had been snatched. "Hey!" The man's eyes were dark and urgent. He didn't look like a thief, yet his movements were sudden and wild. In the flash of a second, he reached toward her, and something heavy clattered above the platform. The world lurched. She felt a hard push that catapulted her forward. The edge of the platform met her heel, and then the train swallowed her. For a second, there was only motion and metal and the sickening slide of air past her face. She heard a woman scream. She heard curse words. In the space of a breath, she grabbed for the rail and hauled herself onto the carriage, clutching the little paper bag like it was the last proof she belonged to this world. Doors snapped shut. The train pulled away, around her, bodies pressed against the glass. Voices rose, someone calling for the police, someone crying out that she had been shoved. A dozen eyes met hers. They looked at the man on the platform. He had turned and was walking away, hands limp, head bowed. Someone shouted, "Thief!" Others yelled, "Call the cops!" Maya stood shaking. Her pulse was thunder. Her bag pressed into her ribs like an accusation. She pressed her thumb to the bracelet. The letters were almost gone, but the memory of a woman's voice came to her then. A voice from a story told long ago about a man who had saved a child at a station and promised never to leave her side. She blinked and tried to breathe through the crowd's angry noise. She whispered, "Why did he?" The train rocked through the night, each sway echoing Maya's heartbeat. She sat frozen near the door, trying to make sense of what had just happened. Her hands shook as she opened her bag, checking if anything was missing. The gift was still there, a small box wrapped with a blue ribbon. Nothing stolen, nothing touched, yet her chest burned with anger and confusion. "He pushed me," she muttered under her breath. "He could have killed me." A woman sitting nearby glanced up. "You're lucky you didn't fall," she said softly. "I saw him. He looked desperate, desperate, desperate." That word clung to Maya. The stranger's eyes had carried something, fear, maybe grief. It wasn't the wildness of a thief. It was the weight of someone running out of time. As the train sped through tunnels, Maya's reflection flickered in the dark glass. Her own face looked foreign. Wet eyes, trembling lips. She touched the dented bracelet again. Her mother had told her once, "This isn't yours by birth, Maya. Someone gave it to you when you were found." She never asked who. She'd grown up believing she'd simply been lucky, a lost child saved by chance. Now the thought wouldn't let go. That man, those eyes, that strange familiarity. When the train stopped at the next station, Maya stepped out, heart pounding. She needed to see him, confront him, make sense of what had happened. But the platform was empty. Only a few night commuters and a janitor mopping the tiles. She sighed, frustration knotting inside her chest. As she adjusted her bag, she noticed something odd. Tucked between the gift box and her wallet was an envelope she had never seen before. Her name written in shaky handwriting, Maya. Her breath caught. The envelope wasn't sealed, just folded. Inside was a letter. "If you're reading this, it means I kept my promise. I saw you again today. I didn't think I ever would. You're safe now. Forgive me if I scared you." Her knees weakened. Beneath the letter was a faded photo of a young man holding a little girl wrapped in a hospital blanket. The man had kind eyes, the same as the stranger at the station. "What is this?" Maya whispered, her throat dry. The date written at the corner of the photo was from 20 years ago. The train thundered by again, shaking the floor. She clutched the photo as if the motion could shake loose an answer. In the distance, sirens wailed, a thin cry across the tracks. Then her phone buzzed. A text alert from a local news feed. Breaking, unidentified man collapses at Central Station moments after saving woman from falling debris. Her heart stopped. She read it again and again. Saving, she whispered. Psst, saving me? The pieces began to twist in her mind. The push, his eyes, the desperation. He hadn't been stealing, he'd been saving. The letter slipped from her shaking fingers as realization struck like lightning through her chest. Something terrible and beautiful was unfolding. Maya ran. The letter fluttered from her grip as she sprinted through the corridor, ignoring the startled faces of commuters. Her breath came sharp and ragged. She didn't even realize she was crying until the tears blurred the signs. She just knew she had to go back. To the platform. To the man who'd pushed her. To the truth she had never known. Her mind replayed that single second. The sound of his shoes scraping the concrete. The flash of alarm in his eyes. The power behind that push. It hadn't been violence. It had been urgency. Fear. Protection. When she reached Central Station, blue lights painted the platform. Paramedics knelt beside a motionless figure on the ground. The rain had started again, light but cold. It beaded on the man's gray hair and the creases of his jacket. He looked smaller now, fragile even. She froze at the edge of the crowd, her heart stuttering. "That's him," whispered a voice. "That's the man who pushed her." Her legs refused to move. She wanted to run toward him, to tell them he wasn't a thief, but her throat locked. A police officer lifted a worn wallet from his pocket. Then another retrieved something from his hand. An old photograph and a bracelet identical to hers. Her vision swam. No, it can't be. A paramedic called out, "He's gone." The words split her chest open. The crowd thinned, whispers dissolving into the rain. Maya stepped forward, trembling. Her shoes splashed in a shallow puddle as she knelt beside him. The officer looked up but didn't stop her. Maybe they all sensed something wordless passing between the two. She reached for the photograph. It was old, creased from years of folding and unfolding. In it, a younger version of the man, Armin, the name stitched faintly on his hospital tag, smiled beside a woman holding a baby. The baby wore the same bracelet she now had on her wrist. Maya's lips parted. "That's me." A small envelope slipped from his coat pocket. She unfolded it with shaking fingers. Inside were a letter, and that hospital bracelet, faded but intact. The writing was delicate, almost hesitant. "To Maya, I made your mother a promise 20 years ago." She was hurt in the accident at this station. Before she took her last breath, she begged me to protect you, her little girl. I tried to find you, but the world lost your trail. I never stopped looking. Tonight, when I saw that bracelet on your wrist, I knew. You'd grown up, but your eyes were the same. You didn't see it, the sign about to fall behind you. I couldn't call your name in time. I just pushed. If I don't wake up, know that I kept my promise. Her hands trembled as she finished reading. The rain blurred the ink. A sound escaped her. Half sob, half gasp. She pressed the bracelet into his palm, whispering, "You did. You kept it." For a long time she stayed there, the world reduced to two souls, one who had kept a promise and one who had finally learned why she was alive. The police let her be. The city kept moving. Somewhere above them, trains came and went as if nothing sacred had just happened below. When the body was taken away, Maya followed the ambulance to the hospital, the same one where she had once worked, where she had once comforted strangers in grief. The irony wasn't lost on her. Now she was the one holding loss like a heartbeat. Hours passed, paperwork, questions. Then the nurse on duty handed her a small item bag, his wallet, his watch, and a folded letter addressed to the woman from the train. She opened it carefully. "Dear Maya, I wasn't meant to be a hero. I was just a man trying to fix one mistake in a life full of them. Your mother forgave me when I didn't deserve it. I promised her I'd protect you. That promise kept me alive all these years. I watched the world forget kindness, but tonight I saw it in you. How you helped that old woman off the train before you noticed me. I knew then that your mother's faith wasn't wasted. Don't cry for me. Just live the life she dreamed for you. And if anyone ever asks how you were saved, tell them, by a stranger who carried a promise." She pressed the paper to her chest. The hospital lights flickered slightly as if the world itself took a breath. The next morning, Maya stood at the edge of the station again. The sky had cleared to a pale gold. Commuters hurried by, unaware of the story written in that quiet space. She carried a bouquet of white lilies and placed them near the pillar where he had fallen. A janitor passing by recognized her. "You were here yesterday, weren't you?" She nodded. Yes. He saved me." The janitor tilted his head. People said he was crazy. Guess they were wrong. Maya smiled faintly, tears threatening again. He wasn't crazy. He was kind. She tied the hospital bracelet to the railing, letting it dangle in the morning wind. Sunlight caught the metal, and for a heartbeat, it glowed. Sometimes a stranger isn't a thief, she thought. Sometimes he's the reason you're still alive. When she finally walked away, she felt lighter. Grief hadn't gone. It never does. But it had softened into something like gratitude. At home, she framed the photograph of Armin and her mother. Beside it, she placed the letter he'd written. That night, when the city quieted, she whispered into the stillness, "Thank you for keeping your promise." The camera would have lingered then, on her tears, the flicker of a candle, the photo's soft edges, the narrator's voice low and tender. The world moves fast, but somewhere someone still carries a promise they made long ago. And the final image, the train pulling out of the station, sunlight glinting off its windows, the faint sound of a heartbeat fading into music. The evening crowd had thinned, leaving behind the lonely echo of announcements and the rhythmic hiss of trains arriving and departing. Maya stood under the steel roof, her umbrella trembling in her hand. Rain poured with that relentless kind of rhythm that makes the world sound like memory. She hadn't planned to return here. The place still carried the aftertaste of fear, the whistle of the train, the weight of his hand shoving her aside, the blurred faces watching. But something inside her couldn't rest. Ever since reading that letter, she had started to remember the scent of jasmine, her mother's hand brushing her hair, the face of a young man who'd visit often, quiet and gentle, holding small white flowers wrapped in paper. Maybe it was him. The thought made her chest tighten. She walked to the same spot where it happened, the yellow line near the platform edge. Water shimmered over the tracks like melted glass. She whispered, almost afraid of her own voice, "You saved me, didn't you? I'm sorry I didn't see you sooner." A faint rustle made her turn. An old woman selling roses stood nearby, her face wrinkled but kind. She handed Maya a single jasmine flower. "Someone left this here every week," the woman said softly. "Always the same flower," said it was for a promise he made to a woman's mother. Maya's lips parted, her eyes blurred. He said, "What promise?" The old woman smiled faintly. "To keep her daughter safe, even from herself." Maya's heart cracked open. The words hit like thunder. It was him, the stranger who pushed her, not out of malice but love, her mother's old caretaker, the boy she used to call Ravi Baya when she was little, the one who disappeared after her mother's death. He had grown up, changed, become unrecognizable in the rush of years. Yet his promise had not aged a day. She sank to her knees, tears mixing with the rain. Around her, trains came and went, the world uncaring. Yet somehow it all felt still. Through her blurred vision, she noticed something new near the bench, a small, sealed envelope taped to the metal railing. Her fingers trembled as she opened it. "Maya, your mother asked me to protect you when she was gone. You were too young to remember, but she said you'd grow into a woman who forgets to rest, who fights too hard, loves too late, and trusts too little. I couldn't save her, but I could save you. I hope one day when you see this, you'll forgive the way I kept my promise." Ravi, the ink had run in places, as if he'd written it in rain too. Maya pressed the note to her chest. Her breath shook. She didn't know where Ravi was now. Maybe gone, maybe watching from a distance, but the station no longer felt haunted, it felt sacred. The camera would pull back slowly now. From Maya standing alone in the rain, clutching the letter, to the entire platform, a blur of gray and silver. In the far background, a man's silhouette stood under a dim light, watching her silently, not approaching, just keeping his distance. She didn't see him, but we, the viewers, would. He smiled faintly, relief, exhaustion, love, then turned away, fading into the mist as another train roared in. Narration softens here. Sometimes the people we mistake for strangers are the ones keeping their promises in silence. Not every act of love looks gentle. Some look like a push, one that saves your life. Maya closed her eyes, whispering into the rain, "Thank you, Ravi." A train passed, wind rushing across the screen. Cut to slow motion, her hair blowing, the jasmine flower slipping from her hand, landing on the wet platform. Camera lingers. The petals tremble, then fade to black. He didn't need her to remember him. He just needed her to live. Soft piano swells, Kinloom tales, stories that keep their promises.